Assalamu alaikum, namaste, sat sri akal, shalom and good day. You are listening to Awaz Community Radio. And today on the radio, we'll be talking to Sarfraz Malik. Now, if you want to get in touch with us, give us a call on 0161 839 9817 or you can email us awazcommunityradio@gmail.com. We're on Twitter, our handle is @AwazRadio122 or type in for Facebook Awaz Community Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in to Awaz Community Radio. Your host for today is Saira and my guest today is Sarfraz Malik. Hi Sarf, how are you?
Hi Sarah, thank you for the invitation. I'm pleased to be here.
You're very welcome. And well, I've been wondering how to introduce you really, but you said everyone knows me as Sarf, so I thought that was the best way.
Sarf, short for Sarfraz, or Sarfraz, and I'm Sarfraz Malik, and I'm simply from Cheetham.
You're simply from Cheetham, and you know so much about the history. I mean, you're a local boy.
I'm a local boy. I went to St Mark's Primary School. For those of you who don't know, that was on Heath Street in Cheetham. And of course now that's moved to a brand new building on Halliwell Lane and it's called the Academy.
Fantastic. And we've been hearing from you recently because we had the Cheetham Cultural Festival and you were there reciting your own poetry.
Sarah, I wrote something for the festival on Eid al-Adha. That went down very well with the children. It was informative and it was very apt that the festival coincided with Eid al-Adha.
So can I ask, Sarf, when did you start writing poetry and why?
About 2 or 3 years ago, I had an accident, cricket accident as a matter of fact, and I just woke up one night, couldn't get back to sleep, and I started to put my thoughts down. And from that, I started to write. Some stuff is quite personal, and some I want to share.
Thank you. I'm really pleased that you've chosen to share your poetry on Awaz Community Radio, because there will be some listeners who weren't able to attend the festival and hear you reciting your poetry. So what's the first poem you'd like to read for our listeners?
I'd like to read this particular piece of work because I've called it "We Don't Celebrate," and I'll read it and then take it from there. I returned to school after Easter. My friends asked how many Easter eggs you got. I came home and asked my father why I got none and my best friend had got lots. We don't celebrate Easter, we are Muslims. I returned to school after Christmas. My friend asked, how many presents you got? I came home and asked my father why I got none and my best friend had got lots. We don't celebrate Christmas, we are Muslims. I returned to school the day after Halloween. My friend asked, trick or treating, how many sweets you got? I came home and asked my father why he didn't take me trick-or-treating and I got no sweets and my friend got lots. We don't celebrate pagan customs, we are Muslims. I returned to school day after my birthday. My friend gave me a card and asked, how many cards you got? I came home and asked my father why I got none and on their birthday my friend got lots. We don't celebrate birthdays, we are Muslims. I returned to school the day after Mother's Day. My friend asked if my mum liked a card. I came home and forgot to mention it to my father. Why my mum got, one, and my friend mum's got lots. We don't celebrate Mother's Day, we are Muslims. I returned to school the day after Father's Day. My friend asked if I'd bought a card for my father. I came home and I was asked by my father why he got no Father's Day cards, his best friends got lots. Dad, we don't celebrate Father's Day, we are Muslims. I no longer go to school and I met my best friend a day after Christmas. My friend thanked me for her Christmas card and asked if mine she got. I came home and was asked by my children, "Cards? Why, Grandad has none and we have lots. We celebrate Christmas Day. We are Muslims."
Thank you for that, Saf. And can I ask, what inspired you to write that poem? I'm sure it's one that will resonate with many Muslim listeners and perhaps listeners of different faiths.
I know somebody who's very close to me and has 4 young children, and whereas I celebrate my birthdays and Christmas Day, he just doesn't celebrate his children's birthdays. So that's what inspired me.
So you said you celebrate birthdays. Do you celebrate Christmas as well? Do you celebrate the different festivals that go on throughout the year?
I certainly do. And if there's a Diwali function on there, we will try and attend that. There are some Jewish festivals I've been to, and we're a multicultural society in and around Cheetham, and you celebrate with your friends, no matter what religion or what cultural persuasion they may be.
How important do you think a poem like this is today in 2016, when there is so much going on politically, socially around the world? How important do you think your poem is?
Anything that brings people together, to make them think, to share and simply care. And I'm sure all of your listeners out there live next door to people from either a different ethnic mix or religion, and on the whole they get on very well with each other. It seems to me that the states in the world need to learn a lesson from the individuals and the neighbourliness and the friendliness that exists.
So Saf, can you share a poem with us that perhaps reflects on your childhood?
Most of what I write, something will come to my mind, and you just take it from there. And this one will reflect a little bit about my early childhood. Let's see what you think of it. My each and every school holiday would be spent in my beloved Ura, a rural village barely 2 miles from the place of my birth, here at Pura. At Pura, I enjoyed the luxury of electric lighting. At Ura, I watched black bison lock horns and fighting. At Pura, the cupboards were well stocked with perfumes, eyeshadows and lipstick. At Ura, the mantelpiece propped up a single bottle of Tibet Snow for makeup. After a wash, the boys, girls, men and women would apply the contents of this cold cream, admiring the picturesque label displaying the snowy mountains and a stream. The name said it all, Tibet Snow. At Pura, inside the house, we had a lavatory. At Ura, we had the use of acres of farmland and shrubbery. At Pura, fresh water drawn from a hand-operated pump. At Ura, a stream that meanders through the village and past the Goya dump. Stream that began in the mountains of nearby Kashmir, India controlled, whereupon the English gentry once roamed. When relations between the two states are fraught, the Indians block the water, creating for us downstream a drought. Beyond Kashmir lies Tibet at the roof of the world, with tall peaks covered with snow, which we pretend to spot at night as their divas in the dark glow. Roof of the world, highest of the highest mountain ranges, where small parts of the glaciers melt and flow into the Ganges. where chunks melt to feed the 5 rivers of the Punjab, which include the mighty Indus, Ravi and the Chenab. The same melted glaciers feed China's awesome river Yangtze, providing water for man and machinery. All these great rivers sources run through a Tibet's gorge, 20 or 30 times deeper than the Grand Canyon that is much explored. Tibet, the giver of water to half of the world's population. Chinese and Indian governments keep a very close eye on this ancient and honourable civilization. Global warming is melting the glaciers at an alarming rate. Soon there'll be nothing left to melt, and life downstream will soon degenerate. The winds and air streams over Tibet provide the source and means for the monsoon season. The glaciers in the Tibetan ecosystem continues to be affected, global warming clearly the reason. The annual monsoon rains provide much needed water for much of Asia, from the rich fertile plains of the Punjab to the east of Malaysia. What global warming, the politicians cry. How can you not enjoy the extra sun warmth and the long spells of weather so dry? It is said that Nero fiddled while Rome burns. The politicians simply fiddle all before them on every turn. Where are the great Where are the great statesmen of this world to tackle this global crisis, whilst the poor get poorer as they cannot grow food or spices? If one half of the world is torn apart with drought leading to shortages, the other half will follow soon after in very large steps and quicker stages. Our so-called progress is destroying our planet Earth. Plans need to be quickly developed and acted upon around the globe, from LA to Perth. Nations should put aside petty squabbles and work together. Never mind the short-term gain of sunshine and fine weather. Act before it's too late. The many disaster movies visually depict what's to come for every state. Take heed, take heed, take heed. Put aside the naturally occurring greed. Take heed, take heed, take heed.
Thank you, Saf. And there's a real powerful message in there. It began so differently. I mean, I felt like you were telling us just a general story about where you're from. It was beautiful, the pictures you painted with your words. And it ended quite differently to how I was expecting. But I think it was a natural conclusion, really, wasn't it?
There is. It's how a little village that I spent my childhood, my summers, how that would be affected with global warming. And also the scarcity of resources. One cream applied to your face, to your body, and that's all there was. And it was a village that had no lighting, and yet 2 miles away there was electric lighting. How different there was between one set of grandparents and another. And Sarah, on a very personal note, my heart is in Ura, because it was such a simple way of life. And the other remarkable thing about it was that my 2 grandparents were very different. My grandfather, my father's father, was a military man, very ordered life, very well read, spoke beautiful English and wrote absolutely very well in both languages. And my mother's father was a farmer. He was unable to read or write, and the village saw fit to elect him on a number of occasions as what's called a lumberdar, in English translated as number 1 in the village, and he would be the man that would sit and amongst people, not to sit judgment, to help them to come to a conclusion which would be satisfactory in a dispute to both sides, and a very respected man of the village, and an absolutely loving man. And in fact, the funny thing is that I never ever heard him shout at anybody, never told me off. I don't ever remember him shouting at any of his own children or grandchildren. The only person he ever shouted was my grandmother.
Your poor grandmother. But it sounds like you've had some very inspiring figures in your life. Have they inspired you to write more poetry?
They do, and I think what gets me going is if I see something, I want to do something about it. And obviously I can't go and change the world, although through the ballot box you do your bit, and hopefully you vote the right way. But there's very little that you can do. So writing helps me to come to terms with a particular issue that I may have in my mind. Recently I wrote something on, I called it Aleppo, and it inspired from an image. And that image, I'm sure that most of the world saw. And this was a woman sitting in a bombed out shelter, clutching a body of a boy in this grey sheet, and her son's sitting behind her, and she's moving backwards and forwards, head's moving backwards and forwards, and occasionally she reaches out with one arm, pulling her son from behind her towards her, sort of the comfort of knowing that he is still there. And that's a very powerful image that touched me, and I'm sure it touched many people that saw that, and that inspired me to write something.
And can I ask, why poetry? I know people express themselves in different ways, their emotions. It can be through art, it can be through maybe articles. So what is it that drew you to poetry?
If I've got something to say, it sort of, most of it comes out naturally. So, and I don't force it for it to come out. It sort of helps. It comes out by itself. I don't have to force it, and I think that's the trick to writing. Not to sit there with a pen expecting to write a poem after poem. I might write one a month. I might write one in every 3 weeks. It just depends on what touches you at the time, and to do that. The one on Tibet Snow I wrote, I actually started it, and most of it was completed in one evening, and I'm sure most of that I was sedated. I was in hospital. I couldn't sleep. I was being given this medication every 4 hours, right round the clock, and I had nothing to do other than to write. So I started to bash this out on my little iPod, a very small device, only a small screen. I bashed it out and then finished it off a few days later. And I'm sure it came out, most of it came out quite naturally. But as you can see, it conjures up an image, and the image of the Tibet snow cream itself, the packaging, right, which everybody I'm sure recognises as the picturesque of sort of the snowy mountain and the stream. That's an image you were brought up with.
So what's the next poem you'd like to read for us?
I'd like to read something a little bit different. Love is having never to say sorry. So said Ali McGraw in Love Story. Caring for one another, tolerating without complaint the other's misdemeanours. Anticipating when the other needs a quieter moment to get over feelings of harshness, frustration or torment. Gently persuading the other of all is well, drawing out from the place where the other should not dwell. Each one of us has deep thoughts of what could have been. That is the time to hang on to your religious deen. Your strength and character is well and truly tested. I wish I had in religious teaching more time invested. I feel a twinge in my back. Love, you sit while I finish making the pancake stack. Then I'll give it a rub. My love, you're an angel of mercy. Now fill me up the tub. I'll take the rubbish out, dear, once this twinge clears. Oh, you are my love, my love. Perhaps you could give the door a lick of paint, only when I'm a little less constrained. My poor love, you sit down. Little reason to display that frown. The test match will soon be on the telly. Don't bother with the rubbish, as you will only have to don the wellies. Maybe I should go to my sister's for the day. Let you enjoy the cricket, the whole day's play. Cook you a nice supper on my return. I do hope England can pile on the runs. What about my lunch, my dearest? I'll leave you something that you can share with Botham, Boycott and Willis.
Thank you. And what inspired you to write that?
Well, it's almost in two halves. And I recently got married about 2 years ago. Got married, remarried. And it's about relationships, about give and take, about giving the other person time to settle, give them time to have a quieter moment themselves. You don't know what's going in their head. You don't know how strange it may seem coming to living in another town. So it's giving them, and that's what started me off. And then a little bit about the cricket comes in, and cricket's a big feature in my life, I have to say. Absolutely love cricket.
I think it's an Asian thing, isn't it? Cricket comes into every equation.
I think it's a bit more than that. It's not only in my genes, as you're suggesting, but it's very much part of my life and makeup. For most of my life, the cricket bat sits right next to where I dress myself, and a ball is almost in my eye line as I comb my hair in the morning, and perhaps every other day I'll pick up the ball and twirl it a little, and once a week maybe hold the bat and just feel the bat on the ball. It's not a man thing, it's a cricket thing. Right.
So Saf, if you could give us a lovely poem to end the show with, something I was privileged enough to have a listen to earlier, and this is about Cheetham, isn't it? This is one for the area. This is one for the community.
It's one for the area, and it's also about a place where I grew up, and it gives quite a bit of background of what Cheetham was like, and what life was like early on in the 60s. In 1964, I arrived as a 10-year-old to my new home in Cheetham Hill. My father enrolled me at St Mark's Primary School, Church of England. 2 days later, I walked out of the back door of our house on Darlington Street, past the girls' playground and into the boys on Heath Street, where I line up with the other boys. Walk, talk when told, else the prefects tell you get to desk. Having never been sent there, took me another year to discover, in line misbehave, you get sent to stand in the hall by the big table called desk. At break, the tuck shop was run from it. Milk crates were placed adjacent to it. Naughty children stood awaiting their fate, along with those that arrived late. Third day in school, a Thursday, in good light, this boy asked, "You want to fight?" Not knowing what he was saying, I replied with one of the only 2 words I knew. Before you could say Jack Robinson, I was on the cloakroom on my back, my face being bashed with his bare knuckles, whilst on my tummy he sat. you remember Jack Robinson? I didn't know back then. Elizabeth O'Connor, along with Patsy Oldham, yelling, "Wayne! Wayne! Wayne! Bashing Sarfraz, killing!" Wayne arrived on the scene, grabbed this boy by the collar, flung him away, picked me up, dusted me down, helped me to the door to end this miserable day. I walked home slowly, bewildered. Instead of the usual 30, it took me 60 seconds. Waiting to greet me as usual was my father. Near exhaustion, my little legs would not have carried me any farther. Gently, I arrived on my tiptoes. He saw my face and the blood gushing out of my nose. His disappointment and pain clearly visible to all. I never got beyond the kitchen, let alone the hall. Ordered my older brother to take me back to school. Show them what they've done to my boy. Not a lot came of it, but I remember the boy. Later became an apprentice at Bury FC. Patsy and Elizabeth were a loud and lovable pair. They came to school wearing bright red lipstick as only they dared. Elizabeth was a little stocky, Patsy very good looking and pretty. Friday afternoons after lunch was scheduled for swimming. I enjoyed this very much. I never forgot my swimming costume. I looked forward to going to the pool. Often Wayne and I would go on Tuesdays, Thursdays after school. Swimming pool in Cheetham? Yes. Where else one would bathe in days where hot water was a luxury? An inside lab and a bathroom for only the wealthy. 2 up, 2 down. That was that, exactly. We walked to the pool in columns of 2. On arrival, a quick change, and into the awaiting clear water, blue, till Mrs. Renshaw began to teach us the various strokes. Mrs. Renshaw seemed to teach me everything but football. Miss Kenyon and Mr. Cox took us for that. Miss Kenyon had a very pretty face. She wore bright pink lipstick, which she carried in a miniature suitcase. We all liked the young, pretty Miss Kenyon. She had a soft spot for me, as you can see very understandably. To get to the pool, we had to embark on a long trek. Came out of the girls' playground and turned left. 20 yards along Heath Street, turned right, past the ever-present smell of beer and cigarettes from the Griffin. 40 hard yards along, the smell of the chlorine lured us in. One Friday afternoon, while waiting to set off to the pool, this boy pushed me in the line. When I pushed back, Mrs. Renshaw saw the only action mine. Sent back to the classroom to play a board game, I felt very disappointed and aggrieved, and held my head in shame. Should you wish to get to your haircut neatly? Should you wish to get your hair cut neatly? Your choice was very limited to the one and only Mackie Davis. I like a number 3, longest round my ears and eyes. By the time Mackie finished, you got a short back and side. Where once Mackie Davis ruled as a barber, it's now a mobile phone shop right next door to Silverdale Solicitors. Never again will I retaliate. Oops. Des Foster constantly made disgraceful gestures towards me with his mate. Fed up, upset, I took the law into my hands. After school one day, on both I pounced. Chased them down to the street, never ever saw with such speed the motion of their feet. Racism, equality were terms for the very distant future. Cheetham knew not then that one day it would happily embrace multiculture.
Thank you for that, Saf, and I think that'll be very popular with with locals who remember, the references that you mentioned. You mentioned the hairdresser. It's a shame now. You said it's turned into a mobile phone shop next to Silverdale's. So that's a reference some people recognise.
Yeah, yes, they will, and not only that, but in the 60s, there were no inside labs or bathrooms. So once a week, people would go down and have a shower or a bath at the swimming pool. And in fact, there were laundry. You could do laundry at the baths or at laundry places. There was one right down the street here, Elizabeth Street. But there were days where there was no central heating. And 2 up, 2 downs, family of 6 or 7, 2 to a bed, 3 to a bed was quite common.
It sounds like there's a lot of nostalgia there. Do you miss the old days, or do you feel appreciative of how things have moved on?
It's great to look back, be nostalgic, but you've got to move on. And I would not give up the comforts of my central heating.
I don't think anyone would.
no, my hot shower in the morning, and to go back to those days. But things have moved on for the better. I mean, there were days where you would have fog. Fog would you miss several days in a year not going to school because of the fog. Buses would stop running. So I think we're in a different world, in a world where no longer I was the only Asian child in the school. I was the first black person that some of these kids had met. I must tell you a little funny tale, Sarah. One of the kids discovered that I could write in Urdu, and at that age I could write, but limitedly. And this boy said, "Will you write on my hand, my name in Urdu?" So I did. Now I'm not sure whether I actually wrote it properly or not, but anyway I squiggled something. So as a reward, he said, "Hold out your hand," and I held out my hand, and he poured a great mountain of sherbets, this yellow powdery, which was a sweet like. Other kids heard about the fact that I could write in Urdu, wanted the same. So that morning I must have written in Urdu about 10 names. Each one gave me a sweet or sherbet. Well, within about 20 minutes of this, I was sick.
A moral to the tale.
Moral of the tale is teach everybody how to write Urdu.
Or take money next time.
I think money would have been better.
Thank you so much, Saf, for coming in and sharing your poetry with us. And we really hope that you'll come back again soon. Perhaps when there's special occasions, if you could share your poetry with us again.
I'll be happy to do that, Sarah. And many thanks for this morning.
You're welcome. Thank you. You've been listening to Sarah Chat to Sarfraz Malik on Awaz Community Radio. If you want to get in touch with us with your feedback, we welcome it as always. Our number is 0161 839 9817. We're on Facebook, just type in Awaz Community Radio or tweet us at Awaz Radio 122. Thank you for listening, take care and have a good day.